Aloha e ohana. Greetings of the greatest love, family. My name is Joshua Hathaway. We are the Human Thriving Project. Up to a little divine mischief today. The Human Thriving Project is here to disrupt the degenerative patterns of our human culture, wherever it finds itself. The Human Thriving Project is a creative commonwealth devoted to generating regenerative art that touches the world in unique ways and calls forth the love that is lying dormant in the hearts of so many humans right now. The Human Thriving Project is a culture of holistic wellness. It is a devotional collective journey to collective thriving. We are here to thrive. And thriving is deeply a choice that only I can make on behalf of I. And when I make that choice on behalf of I make that choice on behalf of us, of the we. Because there is no I am without we are. And there is no we are without I am. And so today, as I journey through the rivers of asphalt, down the arteries of this beautiful culture that we've built for ourselves, from the home of my sweetheart to my home in the mountains of the Sierras, I choose to share some contemplations that have been alive for me. So thank you for tuning in, and thank you for joining this for however long you feel inspired to listen. I promise you that if you decide to drop in with me into this space that I am co-creating with you, even though I don't know when you're going to hear this or under what circumstances, all I know is that I am co-creating in this moment with all of the beings who will eventually receive and participate in this conversation, in this transmission. So as you consider your questions, send them to me. And despite how time appears to work, it is entirely possible that that question will guide my sharing in a direction that I could not have myself anticipated. Because the Human Thriving Project is a collective conversation about what thriving actually looks like. Holistic thriving on an individual level and on a collective level. And the Human Thriving Project is a body of art, is a body of music, is a body of somatic practices, is a body of philosophical notions and regenerative axioms that, when considered and contemplated and held in contrast to what we see operating in the world, within ourselves and out here in the great theater of our culture and our times, we have the opportunity to discover something new together. When we are in these conversations and when we're allowing ourselves to be in an inquiry such as this, to take deep breaths, and sigh from time to time, shake our bodies, stay attuned to the physicality that is cradling our consciousness within form right now. The great, vast body intelligence the network of neurons that stretches unimaginably far, lined up end to end. When we stay attuned inside of our bodies as we consider these issues that affect every one of us at the most intimate level, and we can also see playing out on collective levels in our relationships, in our intimate communities, in our friend groups, in our workspaces, in our families, in our town or state or nation, on a global scale. These dynamics which are impinging in us, touching us, are touching all of us. If it's touching me, it's touching us. Even if just through me. But the great likelihood is that this energy that's touching me, whatever the psychic weather is of the collective, and the psychic weather patterns which move and touch different parts at different times, whatever the psychic weather patterns are that are moving through the collective, they're moving through me. And just as the weather cannot dictate to me what I'm going to do today, per se, the weather is an important condition to be sensitive to as I decide what to do with my precious mana and attention today. And I'm inviting you to, if not now, to bring your attention back here to this conversation when the time is right for you, if it is not now. If you have the space to indulge yourself in some regenerative contemplation, then I want to invite you to join me in 5 deep breaths in through the nose and out through the mouth, feeling gratitude to life for the preciousness of this breath with every inhale, and exhaling love to life, the love that is your unique love that you only and you radiate into the world. Radiate that love to wherever your attention falls as we take these 5 deep breaths together, preparing our heart for the contemplation to come. So exhaling everything we got together. Hold the breath out for a moment. Thank you. Oh, I love you. Yes, you. Thank you. Oh, I love you. Letting the breath enliven the spine and the body, squeezing the perineum gently on the inhale. Thank you. Oh, I love you. That's 3. We got 2 more. Feel the mana coming up through your spine and spouting out your crown. Thank you. Oh, and falling like rain. Let your love fall like rain. Ah, last one, deepest one. Hold at the top. Hamnu. Thank you. Sip into the heart. Smile. Soften, 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 soften. Oh, allow the pleasure of that sensation to burst in every cell of your body. Let yourself melt a little bit into the sweet mana of the ha, the breath. And again and again and again, as often as you can remember, as we sit here in contemplation, thank you. I love you. To whatever your attention falls upon. If you get distracted from what I'm saying and think on something else as you sit with me in this contemplation, it's perfect. It's perfect. Wherever your attention goes. All I am is a mirror, sharing some things that matter to me in a way that I believe can be nourishment for someone today, even if it's just one other person. And the practice of articulating my truth is intrinsically nourishing to my soul. As is the practice of pausing when I need to. I am, we are. I am, we are. I am, we are. Just play with this notion with me for a moment. To be able to approach a holistic frame of reference, we must be able to hold the I am and the we are simultaneously in our awareness. Neither collapsing into the I am in selfishness and deafness, nor collapsing into the we are in a sense of codependent caretaking, which saps nutrients and essential mana from my body, heart, mind. But holding I am and we are in one embrace. So as I do this, I feel my body, I feel the beautiful extension of my body in space. I feel the sensations humming from the soles of my feet, up through my ankles, up through my calves and knees, along the backs of my legs where the pressure of my body rests against the seat, up across my thighs, feeling the fabric of my clothing, my hips, into my pelvis, into my deep belly, lower dantian, my center of centers, up and around my gut, into my back and kidneys, up through my spine, connected at the very base, at the root of my body, my perineum. Awareness swirling up through my diaphragm, up through my rib cage, my lungs, and my heart. Physicality in my awareness. My physicality, my form, my shape, my matter, my mater, my mother. Right here in the shoulders and biceps and triceps, in the elbow and front forearm and back forearm, in my wrists, in the way my hands are resting and articulating themselves in this moment, the sensitivity of my fingertips, and back up into the atlas in the back of my neck at the root, my neck sprouting up from my shoulders, and my throat, the vibration of my voice as I speak, or sigh gently. Let yourself sigh if you're following this, and feel the sigh rippling through the waters of your body. Radiating your spine, radiating your heart, radiating your belly, radiating your throat, vibrating your jaw, your mouth, your tongue. I am feeling all of this exquisite network of sensitivity throughout the body, within and at the very edge of your skin. All of the different sensations in the face, inside the skull, right at that point where the spine meets the skull, the occiput, across your scalp. Be with the exquisiteness of the sensations. Just be here. Be here with this as it is. Tend it. Relish it. Saturate yourself in your own physicality. Saturate yourself in your own presence. This body right here, right now. Making no necessary distinctions between sensations that are pleasurable and sensations that are uncomfortable. Feeling the way that your awareness inhabits this body, this I am, this I am, this singular being. The body is where I am in this world. The body is where I am. The body is always here now. And so it is through the body, through the presence, through the breath, that we always have an anchor point into here now. This, here now. There is always a this here now, which is sensation, which is feeling. There's always a here now, which is sensational, which is breathing. There is a quality of this here now as the body. It's not the only this here now, but it's the one that remains when all of the other thises can be so fleeting, can change, can disappear. This body won't disappear on you while you're here. So this has been, for many years, my practice. Accelerated profoundly when I found the way of Vipassana meditation. And I learned to sit for long periods in silence, gently attending to the sensations within my body. And that practice has infected my whole life with a persistent awareness over the decades that I've practiced. And anyone who endeavors to embody this awareness can also practice with me here now, for example. And the more we practice, the easier it gets. the more I practice being inside my body, the more I discover inside my body, the greater sensitivity I unlock. Like my awareness is a little key that slides into a lock, and then I'm experiencing subtler sensations. The longer I stay with the process, the deeper I go, the subtler the sensations are. And I'll tell you a secret that I've learned in the many years that I've spent in this practice and stewarding my clients through their own journey of somatic awakening, that every wound that you carry, every psychic knot that exists in your identity structure, every unattended bit of karma that you have embedded within your DNA and your life stream can be found inside the body as sensation. Every ancestral trauma that you have been imprinted with by your family of origin, both genetically and behaviorally. Every collective trauma that you have been imprinted with within a colonizer culture every unreconciled atrocity, every collective failure of conscience, the whole shebang is accessible to you here, now, inside this body. It's there. It's not a question of whether it's there or not. There is no room for the shadow of doubt here. There is no question about whether these wounds are here and embedded in your body. Allow yourself for a moment, if this is not your native perspective, to imbibe it, to try it on fully, to like zip it up and do the cuffs and put the shoes on for a minute. Try the full outfit on. Try it on for a moment. All of the ancestral karma that I was born into, my infinite consciousness was born into this physical body within this particular genetic life stream that is my ancestry. All of that is here in my body, accessible to me from a certain frame of reference, from a certain way of listening, of opening to what is here. It's important to understand that a single molecule of our DNA contains all of the information that life needs to build a whole brand new me. A single molecule of my DNA placed in the right conditions can build a whole new this guy, this body. It can't build the one who inhabits it. It can only build the body, and that body will have developed through its own storyline, and there will be things that would be very similar and things that would be radically different about that body that came from that one molecule of my trillions and trillions of molecules, 72 trillion molecules. No, that's cells. Inconceivably great number of molecules. That's the fractal universe at work. That is as above, so below. That is as within, so without. That is the tiny fractal mirror of the whole me, embedded within a molecule of my DNA. Not only does that molecule contain all the information needed to make a new me, a brand new body, brand new joints, baby flesh on my, just baby flesh. But that molecule of DNA contains a vast amount of untapped, as yet untapped information that scientists call junk DNA. Only a colonizer could call it that. Because everybody else knows there's no such thing as trash. Everybody else knows there's no such thing as junk in God's universe. In this exquisite living planet, there's no trash. There's only resources that can be allocated and are best of service in different places, right? But between 70 and 90% of human DNA is not being used. It's in the storage. I am, we are. I am, we are. I am, we are. There is only a tiny fraction of our DNA, my DNA and yours, whoever you are listening, that's different. So much of it is exactly the same. I am, we are. What we are, I am. What I am, we are. And yet each of us has a note, a never before seen pattern that we've brought into the world through our diving across the threshold of form and into the adventure of being human. Each one of us is an absolutely and utterly unique expression, never before seen. Unique fingerprint. So just feel the intelligence, feel the enfolded intelligence within your body. Breathe into it, breathe in gratitude to the shimmering intelligence. See it sparkle inside of you. Both the active and the inactive latent genetic possibilities that exist within your body right here, right now. Feel into that. Oh, wow. All of the stories that humanity has written were written from this coding inside of our body. All the archetypes that have ever been spoken of by a human emerged from within this body. All the characters. And the scientific mind can understand it as this sort of like binary code of like numbers and combinations and patterns. We've deciphered that code. The genetic code is a very simple form of binary mathematics that gives rise to infinite variety. happens to be the same mathematical structure as the I Ching, an ancient divination practice of the Chinese legacy. We're learning. We're still evolving. This genetic information that sits within our bodies is epigenetically steered by our awareness. If I'm angry and I reinforce my anger and I raise my voice, my heart starts to beat faster. All I have to do is scrunch up my face and start to talk like this, and I can start to feel something. Wow. The body just instantly responds with chemistry. Try it. Get mad for a second, just for a moment. You'll feel it. Get mad. Scrunch up your face, squeeze your fists. Oh, maybe you're gonna laugh at yourself a little bit, but if you're honest with yourself, you can feel the chemistry of rage. You can feel the cortisol start to tingle. And if you roll your shoulders forward, you sadden your eyes, slump your cheeks, drop your head down, you take on the physical shape of sadness. If you're noticing, you can feel that sadness. And still take another breath. Down into the belly, let it lengthen the spine upward. Let the crown reach toward the heavens like a tree. Let the roots sink down into the earth. Let your spine stretch. Smile. Let your eyes open a little wider. Feel what you feel now. It's so simple. As within, so without. As without, so within. There is a vast and unmistakable intelligence to this divine creation. I call it divine creation. You may consider it to just be the product of a completely random set of statistically nearly impossible things happening again and again and again and again and again and again. That's a totally legitimate skeptical point of view to play with for as long as you need to play with it. Accidents upon accidents in a mechanical universe of things. That's not how I feel, see, or experience life. Not at all. But I don't think it's wrong. I think it's a very legitimate perspective to take. But when I look at this body, I experience this body as a divine gift, as being crafted by life with a capital L, by a deep, self-organizing cosmic intelligence. I know myself to be a molecule of that unimaginably vast cosmic intelligence that is perhaps right now dancing. I'm just this drop in the ocean. But this drop is fucking dope. And this drop is identifiable as unique and individuated. This drop is distinguishable. And yet, only from a certain proximity. You zoom far enough out and you cannot distinguish this drop anymore. And then you can pierce through this drop and go inside of it and find all kinds of different distinguishable shapes, unique sort of identities. A heart, lungs, belly, sex organs, hands, blood, all these unique features, all collaborating, working together seamlessly, utterly seamlessly, to thrive. These ones over here are collaborating in thriving. And it's not to say that I don't make choices and get in my own way and get in the way of the inherent collaboration inside here. I do all the time. And I have all of these embedded traumas that I'm still unraveling, which exist as physical passive tension, subluxation in my spine, and the suboptimal filtering of my blood, whatever conditions they might give rise to inside of me. But I'm still on a path of thriving. They are still existing within an evolutionary journey where this I am, is here on behalf of we are. That I belong to us. I belong to us. I belong to us. We belong to us. I know that I belong to us. I surrender fully to my belonging to a greater we. Not that I don't resist that at times and still find myself working through very persistent patterning that I have inherited and had reinforced societally, familially, relationally in so many ways. Only that I can't pretend it's otherwise anymore for very long. I understand that just as my heart and my lungs, my hands all belong to one body, that I am also just a hand in a body. I'm just a hand. I was designed to be a part of a collective being. I know this. This is not debatable in my mind. Humans are designed as a social hive. No human can survive alone. No baby can survive alone. Every baby, every adult that's here is only here through the grace of the hive. And we've all had whatever journey we've had with our own family of origin and our own personal storylines to get to this place of our sovereign interdependence. Sovereign interdependence. I am, we are. I am 100% responsible for the choices that I make and for the way that I steward the resources that I am in stewardship of. And yet, I am not separate from the whole, and everything I do, to me, I do to us. Everything I do for me, I do for us. From this holistic perspective. And there's nothing I can do to benefit me truly. My thriving, my truly thriving, my having precisely enough of everything I need to thrive physically, to thrive emotionally and relationally, to thrive mentally and creatively, to thrive in my purpose and work in the world. Everything I actually need. That my having enough is good for everyone. I know this. I know that me having all the resources I need to thrive is of benefit to everyone. And I know that me taking more than I actually need from our collective resources, me trying to profit and skim extra out of my interactions with people to store up for later. Not to say that having savings is a bad thing, but me systematically profiting, trying to get a bargain, get a deal, get more than I give. Me getting more than I give is not good for me, actually. I cannot thrive at the deepest, most holistic level while I am behaving selfishly in a way that makes it that is inequitable within the whole. For me to take what somebody else needs and I don't. For me to take that for myself when somebody else clearly needs it more than I do right now is to replicate the fundamental corruption of colonization. For me to win and them to lose is to replicate the corruption of colonization. Because the only path to true prosperity is the path of collective prosperity, is the path of everybody having enough to thrive, not enough to survive, enough to thrive. And I just want you to imagine, please imagine a world. I can feel the resistance and the energy that needs to be cleared in order to wipe the system clean of the corruption just long enough to imagine a world where everybody has enough to thrive. Nobody has even twice as much as anybody else. We all have enough to thrive. We have arranged our society in such a way that we share what we have grown, what we have made with everyone, where nobody has way more than anybody else and they're way more stuff. Nobody has way more power that they can wield through their stuff, because we all have about the same amount of stuff. And it doesn't matter if you're a janitor or a doctor or a politician, your position isn't going to get you more stuff, because you don't need more stuff. You have all the stuff that you need, and so does everybody else. So nobody's trying to get at your stuff, and you're not trying to get at anybody else's stuff. Because like the heart or the hands or the lungs, you know your role, and you take what you need to play your role within the thriving of the whole. Instead of being like a cancer cell, which just hungers for more of itself and wants to have more power and take up more real estate, and more will just replicate itself again and again and again to get more and more and more. That's cancer. That is the essence of cancer, as a physical illness that is rampant in the world. But only in wealthy nations, really. So, can you feel that? Can you imagine it? If you can't imagine it, this is good information. If you can't imagine a world where everybody has enough and nobody has much more than enough, everybody weathers the lean times together, and everybody shares the abundant times together. We hunker down together and hold on to each other in the difficult moments, and we celebrate together, and we lavish with and upon one another in times of overabundance. We're responsible insofar as we make sure that we store up what we need to for the lean times that are inevitable. But we store that up like a reservoir, or like the deep snowpack on the mountains, the highest mountains. We store that snowpack, we store that energy for when it's needed later. We store that up so that it can nourish the land. The Hawaiians, their word for wealth is vai. Water. This is wealth. Water. And it is a deeply indigenous notion of wealth that is tied to a relationship to the land and a deep and intimate sense of stewardship and co-participation in life with the land, the aina. And so an indigenous notion of wealth is water. It flows. It is given where it is needed to make sure that everybody has enough. Because as soon as somebody starts taking more than they need and storing it up while there are others that don't have enough, we sow the seeds of violence. That is in itself, from the perspective of our future generations, that's a form of violence. We have to understand that if I have water, I have more water than I need, and I'm standing next to a guy who is so dehydrated that he's about to die. If I don't give him the water I have, that is a form of violence in my book, and I hope everybody else's. That me not helping this man next to me when I have more than I need is a form of violence. And it is the fundamental sin that Christ's ministry was aimed at cracking apart, cracking open. The selfishness. And our society justifies that behavior. Our society actually deifies that behavior, idolizes the most selfish people among us who have managed to sequester so vastly more than what they need from our collective resources, and use the labor of people who are starving or living at a standard of material wealth far below what gives rise to thriving. They have that as a result of the labor of those people who are systemically under-resourced. And I want you to imagine what would happen if a body did that. What would happen if inside of your body, some organ decided to get selfish? Decided to get all the resources for itself violently. To move throughout the body on a campaign to take everything for itself. Oh yeah, that's called cancer. That's called colonization. It's cancer inside the body. It's colonization in the body of Gaia, in the living body of Gaia, that the most selfish, technically advanced, violent culture on the planet has dominated every other culture systematically and spread capitalism and free markets and grotesque inequity that is nowhere seen in the indigenous world like that. Grotesque mismanagement of ecosystems and resources, nowhere seen in the indigenous world. Take. Mine. So, just as we absolutely 100% know that the human body cannot possibly thrive where any organ is seeking to gain profit and accumulate wealth above and beyond the other organs of the body or systems of the body. We know this, undeniable. If you can find an exception to this, please share it with me. I'd like to grapple with it. For years I've been contemplating this and I cannot find an exception. But if you can, I'd love for it to be brought to my attention. So bring it to the comments. Just as no individual I am can thrive under those conditions, there is no we are that can thrive under those conditions. Under these conditions, under the very conditions of grotesque inequity that we live in today. None can thrive like that. Impossible. We cannot collectively thrive in the presence of inequity, which is another way of saying injustice, unequal measure. It's injustice. Our collective, our individual, true individual thriving, the highest zenith of creative thriving that any one of us can experience, the highest zenith, can only happen within an equitable society. Our greatest true contribution and service and genius can only come forth within an equitable society, which is a just society. And an unequitable society is not a just society. It cannot ever be said to be just. It can be argued to be more just than a previous version in certain ways. But it cannot possibly be argued to be the kind of just that can give rise to thriving, to the flourishing of the collective, the flourishing of the species, and therefore the flourishing of our very planet, because we are stewards of this planet and a very unique organ in the body of Gaia. We are Gaia's mind. We are some of Gaia's strongest hands. thriving, therefore we are thriving. We are thriving, therefore I am thriving. The more I thrive, the more I become an agent and a turbine of thriving. And my thriving does not depend on money. It doesn't. My thriving depends on shelter, food, clean water, clean air, and a sense of belonging and community. Now, money is a strategy that we've been using for a while to see to the distribution of resources so that everybody has enough. It's one strategy. It's one that I think humanity has become addicted to. But it's not the only way to distribute resources. It is not the only way. And anybody who tells me that we couldn't possibly do better has just committed such a grotesque failure of imagination that, I don't know what to say, but try harder. Try harder to imagine a world that's better. And I'm not saying that we're going to just throw money away anytime soon. I'm not saying that money's just going to disappear or evaporate. But what I'm saying is that culture, that human culture that is thriving in equity and justice, in generosity and shared destiny, in a sense of collective identity as one people who steward and care for all of our children. What I'm saying is that culture eventually doesn't have money because it doesn't need money. It may have ways of representing resources that smooth the distribution and allocation, the the flow of those resources. We may be working through equations, and we may be seeing different kinds of resources as equivalent to each other as we share one kind in one direction and then a different kind gets shared the other way. But we will no longer mistake the symbol for resources as a resource itself. We will no longer mistake the word hamburger for a hamburger. We will no longer mistake the symbol for the resource itself. We are, in our thriving, free from that addiction, free from that cognitive corruption, free from continuing to believe in the promise that those who for millennia have been consolidating their power and getting more and more and more of our collective resources for themselves, and generation after generation making it easier to do that for themselves through power maneuvers and law and the media and an education system which brainwashes and justifies injustice and perpetuates injustice. We are many generations deep into that corruption. And true freedom and true prosperity and true thriving, collective thriving, is a waking up from that illusion and a willingness to work with money as the current economic paradigm with a deep understanding of what is of true value. What is of true value. And the things of greatest value, truly, to a human soul, cannot be bought for any amount of money. You cannot buy your health. I promise you, there are a lot of rich people who are confronted by that fact. I promise you, you cannot buy health. I don't care how much money you have or how expensive your supplements are. You can certainly buy things which favor your health. You certainly have access to different practitioners and doctors and lifestyles which can promote health. But to be healthy is a way of inhabiting your body in relationships. To be healthy, truly, is to be unselfish at all. The highest form of human health, the furthest reaches of all of our documented psychic and spiritual development from an empirical perspective, is altruistic, is naturally altruistic, not performatively altruistic. And so there's actually a level of thriving that is inaccessible to those who, whether through very successful denial and very successful distraction, are able to justify selfishly holding on to resources that other people actually need more than them, like vast amounts, and then only using the resources they have to invest in things that'll get them more, instead of investing in things that make our world better for everyone, knowing that they're always going to have enough. That pattern of holding on to resources is a sickness, is a seed, is a glass ceiling on thriving for every person who is engaged in that core pattern of inequity, injustice, who is continuing to replicate that pattern to the extent that I am replicating that pattern. I am causing my own illness at a soul level, and that will inevitably express itself as physical illness, as sickness, as cancer, as psychosis, as anxiety, as diabetes, as something. Diabetes tends to be a more of a poor person disease. So because I know this, because I understand deeply that I cannot prosper through profit, that I cannot be an agent of collective prosperity by participating in a profit-driven economy, and because I understand that my mana is the most precious mana in my universe. Say that with me for a second. Try that on. My mana is the most precious mana in the whole fucking universe. In my universe. Because I know that what I pour my mana into, my attention, my intention, and the the strength of my hands, the art of my hands, what I pour myself into grows. It increases in my life. It increases in the world. I know this. I know my value as a part of a whole. And I know that the wholes that I devote myself to flourish. They fluoresce. And yet at the same time, I know that I cannot devote myself to a profit project. I can only devote myself to a purpose and a project which is committed to the thriving of the whole and to equity and justice and collective wellness. This I know. So the Human Thriving Project is born because I don't see anybody else out there doing it. I cannot find anybody who's not at some level trying to get rich or trying to cater to the rich to secure enough to be amongst the 1% of the globe. By the way, technically, making $200,000 a year puts you in the global 1%, who owns 90% of our global collective resources. Now, in Western nations, in the most colonized and wealthiest nations, $200,000 doesn't seem like a lot. But guess what? You're in the 1%. So I'm doing my best to integrate and embody a regenerative culture and a regenerative economy every day, right here, right now. I'm a couple of years deep into this experiment. I have been thriving in unprecedented ways. Physically, emotionally, relationally, creatively. Wow. So many kinds of thriving. While at the same time having the least material wealth that I've ever had in my life, and also experiencing the greatest amount of personal betrayal and my resources literally being stolen from me, and then being legally justified through court proceedings where I could not afford a lawyer and they could. So I am a living testament to the fact that losing financial resources does not necessarily equate to thriving less. I've never thriven more in a certain way. I have been experimenting with what it means to live lean, to live simply, to really focus my attention and energy on shelter, food, water, breath, and relationships, and to thrive with as little money as I could manage to thrive with. That's been a very deep phase of my life up until now. I know what it takes to thrive. I know what enough is. Better than I ever did before, and less well than I will next year. Better than I ever did before, and less well than I will a year from now, 10 years from now, 100 years from now. I'm just gonna keep getting better at this. But right now, we're in a cultural mode. We're in a phase where inequity is the norm. Injustice is the norm, the global norm and the local norm. And breaking out of that gravitational pull, like at a deep developmental level, not just as a state of mind that I can access, but as a developmental achievement. I don't know why I'm doing this. As a developmental achievement to be free of the notion that more money, that tons of money will make me happy. But now, because of this deep inquiry I've been in around regenerative culture, I am the regenerative culture that I hope we will more resemble one day. I have a lot of room to grow, but I am the embodiment of a regenerative culture that I know is more favorable to thriving in life than the culture that I inherited and have been navigating my entire life. Not only do I know this, but I have some very compelling maps for how to generate and gather and grow critical mass. And this is the Human Thriving Project. This is the global infection. I want to infect the globe with a love disease. I want to infect the globe with regenerative patterns that are very intimate, personal, and individual, and can be confronting to embrace personally, but are deeply rewarding, like doing push-ups or getting into a strong exercise routine, which is a fundamental part of any regenerative culture. You move physically more. You move in a way that is regenerative. You sit in a way that's regenerative. I've been pretty stagnant. But just all of a sudden I remember what I know, and I start to move my spine. And my movement takes nothing away from what I'm sharing. In fact, it adds to what I'm sharing. It's part of my personal expression. But it also adds to my personal sense of thriving in this moment. And all of this contemplation is designed to help dissolve the wall between I am and we are. To dissolve any illusion of separation. To dissolve any sense that you have to compete with anyone for resources. To dissolve any sense that there isn't enough of everything for everyone. There is enough of everything we need for everyone there is. There is enough. It's already here. We, on the contrary, need not compete. Competing for resources is precisely what creates inequity. Collaborating on everyone getting their needs met is what will destroy inequity. Is what will make inequity look like an angry child's game. Because it is. Because humanity is young yet. And we are going through a vast and massive growing up period. This epoch that we're in, this 100-year period that we're smack in right now, is going to see some of the most radical, dramatic metamorphosis of our species that has ever been seen. I know this. This is not speculation for me. I live in this reality. I know it because I see the patterns around me. I track. We can talk deeply and long about the acceleration of mechanical time, the acceleration of the pattern of the pattern revolutions, and the way that the patterns are repeating themselves faster and faster, that the evolution of information technology is like a clock towards the singularity, towards a point that all time and consciousness is spiraling towards. We can go deep into that shit. But today I'm actually wanting to stay slightly more practical than that, because a lot of people can't even go there with me. But to embrace thriving, to embrace a holistic paradigm, to dissolve the dualistic paradigm that we've inherited, we must commit ourselves wholeheartedly to collective thriving. We must commit ourselves wholeheartedly to whatever discomfort we have to endure to embrace imagining the most beautiful world that our great-grandchildren could possibly live in. And not only that, but then working our way backwards from that world to understand how we can be agents of that world in the most loving, beautiful, and aligned way with the values and paradigm of that world, starting now. No longer willing to do violence that will wash our hands of after we've accomplished our task and made the world safe for our people again. No, this revolution is a loving revolution, and you are a revolutionary, whether you know it or not, whether you've called yourself that or not. My friend, my beloved friend, you are a revolutionary. We are the revolution. The most loving, regenerative revolution the world has ever seen. The most holistic and integrous revolution the world has ever seen. The most generous and kind and compassionate and artful revolution the world has ever seen. That art thou. That art thou. You are that. We are that. To question that notion at all is to succumb to the shadows of doubt long embedded by the colonizer in the domesticated human. And this is so far beyond swapping political identities. This is so far beyond some sort of like violent revolt. It's way harder than that, fam. Way more difficult and yet way more simple. This is about living the gospel truth today. Living the fundamental truth of love today. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, your mind, and your strength. And who is God? God is your neighbor. God is your enemy. Love. That's it. Like, that's it. It's love. Apprenticing ourselves to love. No longer fooling ourselves about the difference between love and fear. No longer following the leadership of fear. but instead choosing at every moment that we have to make a conscious choice to follow the leadership of love, which moves with love, which sees through the eyes of love, which speaks words of love, truth, loving truth, strength, loving strength, an absolute and utter unwavering boundary set that in my world, in my sovereign kingdom, in my sovereign queendom, the rule here is love. The law is love, and nobody is above the law, least of whom myself. Everybody else in this kingdom can be choosing, for whatever reason they're choosing, not to abide by the law of love that I know to be true. But that does not justify me following fear. That is not sufficient cause for me to choose to pour my mana into the agendas of fear. I know what fear feels like in my body, and I know what love feels like in my body. And I want you to know that too. And a lot of people will say they do, but I'm telling you, I meet very few people who really do. I meet people all day, every day, who call their fear love. Who say that they're loving while they're actually replicating patterns of fear, injustice, violence, and inequity without even batting an eyelash to people who they truly do love. But love is not a identity. Love is an attitude. It's a frequency. It's a sound. And even when I know that I love somebody, not every behavior that I behave carries that frequency of love. I still am imperfectly loving, very imperfectly loving. But I'm willing to admit when what I just did was not love when it is brought to my attention, as soon as I can. That's my deep devotion, is to love, to follow, consciously follow the leadership of love. And everywhere I can see the leadership of fear creeping in, trying to lead me in my life, to meet it with love, with patience, with a gentle breath, with laughter if needed, with grief, to grieve my losses instead of become enraged, to laugh at my mistakes instead of become harsh with myself or my lover, to admit when I make a mistake freely and easily, to do what needs to be done to clean up the messes that I actually made, to restore trust where it can be restored. Ho'oponopono. This is it. And it comes down to a radical, unwavering commitment to discern between love and fear. To discern between love and fear at all times, in all places, in every moment, and everywhere that I can. to be the ally, the student of love, to be the beneficiary of love, and to share the love that I find as generously as I can. That's my path. And it's fucking exquisite. And for all that I've lost along the way, I have more than I could have ever imagined. And I'm getting better and better at it all the time. The dictates of fear have less and less a grip on me all the time. The leadership of fear, and I got a long way to go, fam. I don't know what this enlightenment thing is. I don't know anything about that. I just know that, like, I'm way better than I ever was, and I see more room for improvement than I ever have. And may it always be so. This is the I am and the we are, the holding of the perfection of myself as I am. The genuine appreciation of my growth and development and evolution. And the stark acknowledgement that I have a long way to go to grow into the level of like personal maturity and consistency in love that I know in my heart is possible, because I don't doubt. I do not fuck with the shadow of doubt. I do not fuck with fear. I fuck with love. And when fear comes, I don't succumb. And I've devoted decades of my life to this cultivation. And I've discovered some, dare I say, shortcuts. There really are no shortcuts, but there are more direct paths, and none of them are in a straight line. I promise you. The most direct path anywhere is a spiral. You just gotta be the right spiral, the right attitude, right? So, how do we stay honest with ourselves? How do we be honest with ourselves about what is love and what is fear? That contemplation alone in your life, listen for it. Fear is a tone of voice. It's a harshness. It's an intensity that is forced. Fear is selfishness, greed. Fear covets what others have. Fear is willing to take more than its fair share or what it needs. Fear is willing to bend the truth a lot. Fear is willing to outright lie, to deceive, to hide. When fear grips us, we're less intelligent. The mind closes and shuts down. The body is less graceful and strong. It's literally physically weaker than it is running on the fuel of love, on passion, on inspiration, on conviction, on faith. The revolution is a revolution of faith. Nobody is going to make the sacrifices that we all need to make in this revolution if you don't have faith. But there's no neutral ground. There's no Sweden around here. You don't get to opt out of fear but not opt into love, or opt into love and not opt out of fear. You're either, right now, following the leadership of love inside of you on behalf of Team Love and on behalf of the collective thriving of life, or you are right now following the leadership of fear inside of you, and to that extent helping Team Fear lead yourself and humanity deeper into the nightmare of fear and inequity and injustice. Every moment. If you hate me for saying it, if you're mad at me, So what is it for you now? Take a breath, feel in. Do you feel love in your body? Does your spine feel open and stacked? Your shoulders feel relaxed? Your jaw relaxed? Love is relaxed. Love is curious instead of critical and judgmental. Love trusts. Hey, this guy really believes what he's saying. I might not believe the same thing, but I believe that he believes it. But fear is looking for my angle right now. Fear is looking for what I'm trying to take from you by convincing you of something. Fear likes to mask a deep, deep cynicism and call it skepticism. A doubt is doubt is doubt. If you really doubt that humanity has within it the seeds of a more beautiful collective future, you got to face that. Because that's justifying a whole lot of behaviors when you start to get honest with yourself that you wouldn't do if you believed that we actually have a shot. If you believe in the innate goodness of human nature, if you have faith because you have seen evidence of it, even if there's a whole lot of painful memories, and even if the media and all of the forces that are allied with fear are trying to get us focused on the bullshit. We get to steward our attention. We get to really question our own beliefs. You have a belief that you are actually operating from. In many cases, the belief that you're operating from in the difficult moments is a different belief than you say is your core belief. If you cannot identify the core beliefs within you that are rooted in fear, then you have no chance of thriving. If you refuse to identify these things, you guarantee the degeneration of your well-being. These are not meant to be harsh in any way. For me, they are axiomatic truths. And I ask you to find an exception for me if you believe that I'm mistaken. I welcome challenges. I welcome substantive dialogue about these things. I don't welcome projections about who I am or what my motivations are for saying any of this that are rooted in your fear and doubt. You can keep those to yourself. But I welcome your substantive questioning and challenges on anything that you've heard here. 100%. I think I'm going to complete this video here. Thank you for taking this hour and a half to journey with me on this contemplation of holistic wellness, collective and individual thriving, and how they're related. How injustice is baked into the fabric of our culture, and how that injustice must be identified within ourselves in order for us to be agents of a collective thriving that can also be the conditions for our wildest and most beautiful personal flourishing in the world. I hope you've enjoyed this even a fraction of as much as I have. I'm sure we'll have more opportunities to commune in this way. Thanks for listening. Aloha.